480 Marines, 1 valley, 0 way out. Command said wait for air support. Protocol said hold position. Orders were clear, stand down. But Sergeant Elena Cruz saw what they refused to see. The convoy wasn't walking into a firefight. They were rolling into a graveyard. She'd mapped every ridge, studied every approach. The valley was a perfect kill box, machine gun nests on the high ground, RPG teams in the draws, mortars zeroed in. A textbook ambush. She raised the alarm once. They laughed her out of the operations room. Now, as gunfire cracked through the radio and Marines screamed for help, Elena stood alone at the edge of the firebase, rifle in hand, disobedience in her heart. Protocol be damned. She wasn't going to let 480 souls die because pride wore stars on its collar. Before we begin, if you're watching this, stay until the very end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button if you believe one person can change everything. Now, let's see what happens when the invisible becomes unstoppable. The sun hung like a hammer over forward operating base Sentinel, turning the dust into a haze that clung to everything: skin, gear, hope. Sergeant Elena Cruz sat cross-legged in the shade of a Konex container, her M110 semi-automatic sniper system disassembled on a weathered drop cloth. Each component gleamed under her methodical care. Bolt carrier group, gas piston, trigger assembly. Her hands moved with the precision of ritual. Laughter rolled from the chow hall 50 meters away, loud, fraternal, exclusive. Range-only Cruz probably sighted in her stapler this morning. More laughter, sharper this time. Elena didn't look up. Her fingers traced the barrel, checking for fouling she knew wasn't there. She'd cleaned this rifle yesterday, and the day before, and every day for the past 7 months at this godforsaken outpost in Alvarado Valley. 7 months of being invisible. The FOB sprawled across a plateau like a scar on the desert's face. HESCO barriers, razor wire, prefab buildings baking under relentless sun. 200 personnel rotated through: infantry, artillery, logistics. Elena belonged to the third category officially: communications and supply coordination, a desk job with a rifle qualification that nobody took seriously. Dead weight with a scope, Staff Sergeant Marcus Vega had called her during the last convoy brief. He'd said it loud enough for the whole ready room to hear, casual cruelty dressed up as banter. She'd kept her face neutral, let it slide off like water off Kevlar. Because that's what 7 months teaches you. Pick your battles, save your ammunition. The rifle clicked as she reassembled the upper receiver. Muscle memory, meditation, the one conversation that never talked back. Cruz! Corporal Danny Hayes jogged over, his uniform dark with sweat. 22 years old, fresh-faced, still thought the Marine Corps was the movies. Supply manifest came in. Captain wants it logged by 1400. Copy that. Elena set down the bore brush. Hayes lingered, shifting his weight. You going to the briefing? Which one? The big push. Operation Clearview. He lowered his voice like he was sharing classified intel. 480 Marines, 12 vehicles, sweeping the southern valleys. Command thinks we can cut off insurgent supply lines before they reposition for winter. Elena's hands stilled. Which valleys? Karsa, I think. And the passes near Karsa Basin? Yeah, that's it. Her pulse tightened, just slightly, just enough to notice. Hayes didn't catch it. Anyway, briefing's at 1600 if you want to sit in. I mean, I know you don't usually. I'll be there. He blinked, surprised. Oh, cool. Yeah, okay. He jogged off, back toward the operations center, a reinforced building at the FOB's heart, bristling with antennas and generators. Elena turned back to her rifle, ran a patch through the barrel one more time. Karsa Basin. She'd memorized that terrain 3 months ago when the intelligence brief started flagging increased insurgent activity. Rolling hills that funneled into a narrow valley, steep ridges on both sides, limited egress points. Topographically, it was gorgeous. Tactically, it was suicide. The operations center smelled like stale coffee and recycled air. Maps covered the walls, satellite imagery, topographical overlays, red pins marking known insurgent positions. A large digital screen dominated the far end, currently displaying a route plan through Karsa Basin. Elena slipped in through the back, taking a seat along the wall. The room was packed. Platoon leaders, squad commanders, fire team chiefs, all men, all loud. Captain Richard Oakes stood at the front, pointer in hand. Mid-40s, graying at the temples, the kind of officer who'd spent more time in conference rooms than firefights. Gentlemen, Operation Clearview is a surgical strike designed to disrupt enemy logistics and assert control over a contested region. He tapped the screen. The route lit up in blue, a convoy path snaking through the valley floor. We'll move in column formation. Alpha Company takes point, Bravo follows, Charlie secures the rear. Intel suggests minimal resistance. Local informants report insurgent forces have moved east toward the border. Elena's eyes tracked the route, then the ridgelines. Her brain automatically calculated fields of fire, dead zones, choke points. Her stomach knotted. Timeline is tight, Oakes continued. Wheels up at 0600. We push through, establish presence, and return by nightfall. Fast and clean. Staff Sergeant Vega leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. What's our air support package? Apaches on standby, F-18S if we need them. But again, Intel says this should be a show of force, not a slugfest. Vega grinned. So we're rolling heavy just to wave at goat herders? Laughter rippled through the room. Elena raised her hand. The laughter died unevenly, like someone had fumbled the volume knob. Oakes frowned. Cruise? She stood, moving to the map. Sir, this route... She traced the valley floor. It's a funnel. High ground on both sides, limited maneuverability. If insurgent forces are positioned here, she pointed to the eastern ridge, and here they'd have overlapping fields of fire across the entire convoy path. Oakes' expression hardened. Intelligence indicates... Intelligence 3 weeks old, sir. Elena kept her voice even. The last aerial reconnaissance was dated February 10th. It's March 4th. A lot can change. Vega snorted. So what, Cruz? You think you know better than SIGINT? Better than the drones? I think terrain doesn't change, but enemy positions do. Oh, she thinks. Vega looked around, playing to the crowd. Somebody alert the Joint Chiefs. Cruz cracked the code from her supply closet. More laughter, louder this time. Elena didn't flinch. She looked directly at Oakes. Sir, request permission to conduct a high-altitude recon before the convoy departs. Just to verify... Denied. Oakes cut her off, voice flat. We're not adjusting operational timelines because you've got a hunch, Sergeant. The plan stands. Sir? The plan stands. Silence. Elena held his gaze for one more second. Then she nodded. Yes, sir. She returned to her seat, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. The unspoken verdict. She doesn't belong here. The briefing continued. Logistics, comm frequencies, medevac protocols. Elena barely heard it. Her mind was still on that ridgeline, that perfect killing field. When the briefing ended, the officers filed out in clusters, voices loud and confident. Elena waited until the room emptied. Then she approached the map alone. Her finger traced the route again, slowly, methodically. There, a cluster of high points overlooking the valley's narrowest section. Elevation advantage, natural cover, clear sightlines to the convoy path. If she were planning an ambush, that's exactly where she'd position her guns. Still second-guessing the brass? She turned. Hayes stood in the doorway, hesitant. Just looking, Elena said. You really think it's a trap? I think hope isn't a strategy. Hayes shifted uncomfortably. Command knows what they're doing. Do they? They have to, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Elena studied him, so young, so untested. How many convoys have you rolled on, Hayes? 3, but how many have I analyzed from Overwatch? He blinked. I don't know. 47? She turned back to the map. And I've seen what happens when confidence outweighs caution. So what are you going to do? Good question. Protocol said, trust the chain of command, follow orders, stay in your lane. Instinct said something else entirely. My job, Elena said finally. Hayes nodded, not really understanding. He left. Elena stood alone in the operations center, staring at the map, at the ridgeline, at the inevitable geometry of disaster. That night, the FOB settled into its familiar rhythm. Generators hummed, guard towers lit up in rotation, Marines drifted between the chow hall, the gym, and the berthing tents. Elena sat in her quarters, a plywood box barely large enough for a cot and footlocker. A single red bulb glowed overhead, the kind that didn't ruin night vision. She spread her personal maps across the sleeping bag, topographical charts she'd requisitioned through supply channels, annotated by hand, contour lines, elevation markers, notes in tight, precise handwriting. Karsa Basin, 12 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide at narrowest point. Eastern Ridge, 340 meters elevation. Western Ridge, 380 meters. Valley floor, 180 meters. She'd walked these maps so many times in her mind she could navigate them blind. Her tablet glowed beside her, satellite imagery pulled from the shared intelligence database. Low resolution, weeks old, but better than nothing. She zoomed in on the ridgelines. There. Faint discoloration in the rocks. Could be shadows. Could be natural variation. Could be fighting positions. She cross-referenced it with historical insurgent tactics in the region. Preference for high ground, ambush over direct engagement, patience. The pieces fit together too cleanly. A knock rattled her door. Elena closed the tablet, slid the maps under her pillow. Yeah? Hayes poked his head in. You got a second? What's up? He stepped inside, glanced around nervously. Look, I've been thinking about what you said, about the convoy. Hayes, no, just listen. He dropped his voice. What if you're right? What if it is a trap? Then 480 Marines are about to walk into it. So we have to do something. We? He straightened. I believe you. Elena studied him. Earnest, naive, brave in the way only the untested can be. Believing me doesn't change orders, she said quietly. But, Hayes, you want to help? Do your job tomorrow. Keep your head down, stay sharp, and come home alive. That's all you can control. What about you? She met his eyes. I'll do the same. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded. Okay, yeah, okay. After he left, Elena sat in the red glow, staring at nothing. Her rifle leaned against the wall within arm's reach, always within arm's reach. She thought about protocols, chain of command, the weight of disobedience, and she thought about 480 Marines. 0530 hours. Pre-dawn dark. The convoy staging area was organized chaos. Humvees and MRAPs lined up in formation, engines rumbling, headlights cutting through dust. Marines loaded gear, checked weapons, traded final jokes to burn off nervous energy. Elena watched from the operations center window. Captain Oakes stood near the lead vehicle, clipboard in hand, conducting final checks. She'd tried one more time an hour ago, walked directly to his quarters, made her case again. He'd shut the door in her face. Now she watched the convoy prepare to roll and felt the certainty in her gut harden into something cold. Staff Sergeant Vega's voice crackled over the radio net. All units, comms check. A cascade of responses. Call signs, confirmations. Alpha 1, good copy. Bravo 2, solid. Charlie 3, Lima Charlie. Elena picked up her personal radio, the small handheld unit she kept for monitoring, not transmitting. She dialed into the convoy frequency. Oakes's voice came through, calm and authoritative. Gentlemen, this is a textbook operation. Stay sharp, stay disciplined. See you on the other side. Hoo-ah! The convoy lurched forward, vehicles grinding into motion. Headlights swung across the desert like searchlights hunting ghosts. Elena stood at the window until the last vehicle disappeared into the pre-dawn gray. Then she turned and walked to the armory. The armorer on duty, Lance Corporal Peters, barely looked up from his magazine. Little early for range time, Cruz. Need to check my zero, Elena said. Might have bumped my scope. Peters waved her in. Signed the log. She did. Retrieved her rifle case, ammunition, spotting scope. Peters didn't ask questions. Why would he? Elena was always at the range. It was what she did, what she was allowed to do. She carried her gear out into the gray morning. The FOB was quiet now, most personnel either sleeping or deployed with the convoy. Perfect. She moved to the perimeter, to a section of Hesco wall facing southeast, toward Karsa Basin. 15 kilometers as the crow flies, 12 if you knew the shortcuts. Elena opened her rifle case. The M110 gleamed in the weak light. She assembled it with the speed of ritual, magazine, optic, suppressor. Then she pulled out her personal kit, the one she'd packed in secret. Hydration bladder, MRES, extra ammunition, rangefinder, DOPE book, data on previous engagements, every shot she'd ever logged, and a handheld GPS with the coordinates already entered. She slung the rifle across her back, adjusted the weight. Protocol said, stay on base, follow orders, trust the system. Her conscience said, 480 Marines. She keyed her radio one last time, listening to the convoy chatter. Routine, confident, unaware. Then she switched it off and climbed over the wall. The terrain was brutal, rolling desert hills that looked flat from a distance, but revealed themselves as endless climbs and descents. Rocks shifted underfoot. Thorny scrub tore at her uniform. Elena moved fast. Not running, that burned energy too quickly, but a ground-eating march that 8 kilometers. Her GPS beeped softly. 9 kilometers to target. The sun crept over the horizon, turning the world orange and gold, beautiful and merciless. She checked her watch. 0642 hours. The convoy would be entering the valley in 18 minutes. She pushed harder. Her lungs burned. Sweat soaked through her uniform despite the cool morning air. The rifle felt heavier with each step, the ammunition even more so. Didn't matter. Keep moving. At 8 kilometers, the terrain shifted, steeper now, rockier. She was approaching the western ridge overlooking Karsa Basin. At 7 kilometers, she heard it, distant, faint. The low rumble of diesel engines. The convoy. Elena's pulse spiked. She broke into a run, legs screaming, lungs on fire. The ridgeline rose ahead, a jagged wall of stone and scree. She hit it at full speed and started climbing. Rock scraped her palms. Boots slipped on loose stone. She used the rifle for balance, for leverage, for sheer stubborn momentum. Higher, faster. Her radio, still off, bounced against her hip. Part of her wanted to turn it on, to hear their voices, to know if she was already too late. But if she turned it on, they'd hear her breathing. They'd know someone was out here, and they'd order her to stand down. So she climbed in silence. At the ridgeline's crest, she dropped flat and crawled the last 10 meters, pulled out her spotting scope, and looked down into Karsa Basin. Her heart stopped. The valley spread below like a topographical map come to life, exactly as she'd memorized. The convoy was visible now, a line of vehicles threading through the narrow pass. And on the ridges, both sides, she saw them, figures, dozens of them, positioned in clusters, heavy weapons, RPGs, waiting. "Oh, God," Elena whispered. She fumbled for her radio, turned it on. Static hissed, then voices, calm, routine. "Alpha 1, passing checkpoint Bravo." "Copy, Alpha 1. Weather's clear. No." The world exploded. The first RPG streaked down from the eastern ridge like a falling star. It impacted the lead Humvee in a blossom of fire and shrapnel. Then everything opened up at once. Machine gun fire ripped across the valley floor, tracer rounds drawing bright lines through the morning air. Mortars thumped from hidden positions, shells arcing high before plunging down. The radio erupted into chaos. "Contact! Contact! Eastern Ridge! Vehicle down! Vehicle down! Taking fire from all sides! Get to cover! Move! Move!" Elena's training kicked in. Her hands moved automatically, rifle up, scope to eye, ranging the distance. 890 meters to the nearest machine gun nest. Wind, negligible. Temperature, cool. Barometric pressure, stable. Her finger found the trigger, but protocol screamed in her head. "You are not authorized. This is not your mission. You are disobeying direct orders." Below, Marines scattered from burning vehicles. Rounds kicked up dust all around them. A mortar landed 20 meters from a fire team, the blast throwing bodies like ragdolls. "Man down, corpseman! We're pinned! We can't!" Elena's finger tightened. Protocol versus conscience. Orders versus lives. She took a breath and made her choice. The rifle cracked. A sharp, clean sound swallowed by the valley's thunder. 890 meters away, the machine gunner's head snapped back. He fell. The gun went silent. Elena cycled the bolt, brass ejected, glinting in the sun. Target 2, RPG team repositioning on the western ridge, 1,020 meters. Breathe, adjust for distance, squeeze. The shooter dropped. The RPG clattered down the rocks. Below, the Marines didn't understand yet. They were too deep in chaos to see the pattern shifting. But the enemy did. Confused voices echoed across the ridges, sharp, alarmed. They'd lost 2 positions in seconds. Invisible, impossible. Elena kept firing. Target 3, target 4, target 5. Each shot calculated, each bullet precise. The battlefield began to change. Machine gun fire that had poured down like rain now came in sporadic bursts. RPG teams hesitated, scanning the ridges for a threat they couldn't see. On the radio, a voice cut through. Staff Sergeant Vega, raw and desperate. "Where is that fire coming from?" Another voice. "It's not ours. We don't have elevated. It's a rifle, single shots. That's impossible, that range." Elena ignored them, focused. Another target, another threat eliminated. But there were too many. For every position she neutralized, 2 more opened fire. The convoy was still pinned, still dying. She needed to do more than suppress. She needed to break them. Elena scanned the eastern ridge through her scope, found what she was looking for. A cluster of fighters around a heavier weapon, probably a leader coordinating the ambush. 1,150 meters. Extreme range for the M110, but doable. Wind picked up, just slightly. She compensated. Her crosshairs settled on the center mass of the figure, gesturing orders. Breathe, squeeze. The rifle kicked. The figure dropped. And just like that, the coordination shattered. Insurgent fire became erratic, disorganized. Fighters broke from their positions, retreating up the ridges. On the radio, Vega's voice again, shocked, disbelieving. "They're falling back! What the hell is happening?" Captain Oakes, shaky but trying to maintain command. "All units, consolidate! Get the wounded to the MRAPs. We need contact rear, western ridge." New threat. Elena swung her rifle. There, mortar team setting up. 960 meters. 2 shots. Both crewmen down. The mortar toppled. Vega's voice cracked through the static. "Who is that? Who's on overwatch?" Silence. Then a new voice. Older, calmer. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes, senior officer embedded with the convoy. "Call sign. Whoever's providing cover, identify yourself." Elena's finger hovered over the transmit button. If she answered, they'd know. They'd order her to cease fire. They'd court-martial her when this was over. If she stayed silent, she released the button, let the question hang, and kept shooting, because 480 Marines were still in that valley, and she wasn't done yet. The sun climbed higher. The firefight stretched into an hour. Elena's hands moved like machinery. Load, aim, fire, cycle. Her shoulder ached from recoil. Her eyes burned from staring through the scope. Below, the Marines began to fight back with real coordination. With the ambush broken, they could maneuver. Fire teams advanced under covering fire. Wounded were dragged to safety, and the entire time, Elena's rifle sang its quiet, lethal song. The insurgents were retreating now, collapsing back into the hills, abandoning their positions. The ambush had failed. On the radio, voices shifted from panic to grim professionalism. Alpha 1, casualty count? 7 wounded, 2 critical, no KIA. Bravo 2? 4 wounded, we're stable. Charlie 3? 6 wounded, 1 urgent surgical. We need medevac now. Medevac is inbound, ETA 12 minutes. Elena lowered her rifle, scanned the ridges one more time. No movement, no threats. It was over. Her hands shook, adrenaline finally catching up. She'd fired 63 rounds, eliminated at least 40 targets. Saved. How many? impossible to calculate. But the convoy was still moving, still alive. The radio crackled, Lieutenant Colonel Barnes' voice steady and measured. "Unknown Overwatch, this is actual. I don't know who you are. I don't know how you got there. But you just saved this entire battalion. When you're ready, identify yourself." Elena stared at the radio. Her career was over. She knew that. The moment she answered, the moment they traced her position, her disobedience would be documented, recorded, prosecuted. But she'd made her choice on that climb, and she'd make it again. She keyed the mic. Her voice came out hoarse, raw. "Ghost 17. Silence on the radio. Then, "Say again?" "Call sign Ghost 17. A longer pause. She could almost hear them checking rosters, searching databases. Then Barnes again, and this time his voice carried something new, recognition and disbelief. "Cruz? Sergeant Elena Cruz?" "Yes, sir." Dead silence. Then chaos. Vega's voice exploded through the net. "Cruz? Cruz is out there? How the—" Oakes sputtering. "She's not authorized. She doesn't have—" Barnes cut them both off, voice like iron. "Shut it down. All of you." Silence fell. "Sergeant Cruz," Barnes continued, "maintain position. Provide overwatch until medevac completes. After that, we'll discuss your unauthorized field trip." "Copy that, sir." The radio clicked off. Elena slumped against the rocks. Exhaustion crashed over her in waves. She'd done it, saved them. And now she had to face what came next. Below, helicopters thundered into the valley. Medevac birds touching down in swirls of dust. Marines loaded wounded. The convoy began its extraction. Elena watched through her scope, made sure every bird lifted safely, made sure no new threats emerged. When the last helicopter cleared the valley, she finally allowed herself to breathe. 480 Marines, 0 killed in action, against every odd, against every protocol. She'd rewritten the battlefield. Now she had to face the ones who told her it was impossible. Elena packed her rifle, stood on shaking legs, and began the long walk back to FOB Sentinel, where judgment waited. Bob. End of part 1. The invisible had become undeniable. The sniper they dismissed had just saved an entire battalion. But disobedience, even when it saves lives, carries a price. And Elena Cruz was about to learn exactly what that price would be. The walk back felt longer than the sprint out. Elena's boots ground against gravel and stone, each step a metronome counting down to consequences. The sun hammered down from directly overhead now, turning her uniform into a second skin of sweat and dust. Her rifle, 63 rounds lighter, rode across her back with familiar weight. She didn't regret it. But regret and consequence weren't the same thing. The FOB materialized out of the heat shimmer like a mirage turning solid. HESCO barriers, guard towers, the American flag hanging limp in windless air. And at the main gate, a welcoming committee. 4 MPs stood in formation, rifles slung but ready. Behind them, Captain Oakes paced like a caged animal, his face the color of a fresh bruise. Elena approached at a steady walk. No hesitation, no apology in her stride. The MPs moved to intercept. "Sergeant Cruz," the lead MP said, a staff sergeant whose name tape read Morrison. His voice was professionally neutral. "You're to surrender your weapon and come with us." Elena unslung her rifle, handed it over, grip first. Morrison took it like he was handling evidence, which, technically, he was. "This way, Sergeant." They walked her through the FOB in silence. Personnel stopped to stare. Word had already spread. The base grapevine moved faster than radio traffic. By now, everyone knew Cruz disobeyed orders, left the wire unauthorized, and somehow became a one-woman fire support element. Some faces showed shock, others confusion. A few, just a few, showed something else. Respect. They brought her to the detention building, a reinforced structure near the command post. Inside, the air was cooler but heavier. Morrison gestured to a metal chair in an empty room. "Wait here." The door closed, locked. Elena sat, stared at the cinder block wall. Her hands still trembled slightly. Adrenaline hangover. She flexed her fingers, working out the muscle memory of trigger pulls. 63 shots. She wondered how many of them had been killing shots. How many threats neutralized? The numbers mattered for after-action reports, but right now they felt abstract. What mattered was the radio chatter she'd monitored during the extraction. Wounded but stable. Medevac successful. 0 KIA. That number, 0, was the only one that counted. The door opened. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes stepped in. Mid-50s, weathered face, eyes that had seen too many wars. He carried a tablet and a folder thick with paperwork. He set both on the table and sat across from Elena. For a long moment, he just looked at her. "You know what you've done," he said finally. Not a question. "Yes, sir." Unauthorized departure from base, disobeying direct orders, commandeering military equipment without clearance, engaging enemy forces without command authorization. He ticked them off like a prosecutor building a case. Any one of those is career-ending. Altogether? He shook his head. Court-martial. Dishonorable discharge. Possible prison time. Elena met his gaze. "I understand, sir." "Do you?" Barnes leaned forward. "Because I'm trying to understand what you were thinking. What made you believe you had the right, the authority, to countermand your commanding officer and conduct a solo operation?" "I didn't think I had the right, sir." "Then why?" "Because I had the ability." Silence dropped like a hammer. Barnes studied her. "Explain." Elena chose her words carefully. "I saw the terrain, recognized the threat, had the skill set to intervene. Command chose not to listen, so I chose to act. You chose to play hero. I chose not to watch 480 Marines die." Barnes's jaw tightened. He opened the folder, pulled out a printout. "Your service record. 3 years active duty. Expert marksmanship qualification. Highest scores in your recruit cycle. Requested sniper school twice. Denied both times." "Yes, sir." "Why were you denied?" Elena's fingers curled slightly. The assessment cited concerns about physical requirements and team integration. Translation, they didn't think you could hack it. That was the implication. Barnes flipped another page. Yet somehow you managed to provide precision fire support across extreme ranges for over an hour. 40+ confirmed enemy KYA, 0 friendly fire incidents. Textbook Overwatch. He looked up. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" "Practice, sir." "Bull." The word cracked like a whip. "I've seen a lot of shooters, Cruz. Natural talent gets you to expert. What you did today requires training, professional training. So I'll ask again, where did you learn?" Elena held his stare, felt the weight of the question. Barnes wanted an answer that made sense, a hidden background, special forces training, something that explained the impossible. But the truth was simpler and harder to accept. "I taught myself, sir." Barnes's expression flickered, disbelief trying to become anger. "You expect me to believe 7 months on this FOB, minimal duties, every spare hour on the range. I studied ballistics manuals, calculated wind drift, logged every shot, built my own dope book from scratch." She paused. "And I had nothing else to do." The silence stretched. "Nothing else to do," Barnes repeated slowly. "Because they sidelined you." "Yes, sir." He leaned back, studying her like she was a tactical problem he couldn't solve. "You're either the most dedicated Marine I've ever met or the most insubordinate. Can it be both, sir?" A ghost of a smile touched his face, then vanished. "This isn't funny, Sergeant. You broke the chain of command, fundamentally. There are consequences." "I know. And you'd do it again." Not a question. Elena answered anyway. "Yes, sir." Barnes closed the folder, stood. "You're confined to quarters pending a formal investigation. No contact with other personnel. MPs will escort you to meals. Your rifle is evidence now." He moved to the door, paused. "For what it's worth, you saved a lot of lives today." "Is that worth anything, sir?" He looked back. Something complicated passed across his face. "We'll find out." The door closed. Elena sat alone in the silence, feeling the weight of what came next pressing down like altitude. They moved her to temporary quarters, a shipping container converted into a cell. Cot, sink, toilet, nothing else. The door locked from outside. Through a narrow window, she watched the FOB continue its rhythm. Personnel moved between buildings. Vehicles came and went. Life went on, just without her in it. Hours crawled past. The sun tracked across the sky, turning the container into an oven despite the air vent rattling overhead. Elena lay on the cot, staring at the ceiling, replaying the firefight, analyzing each shot. Could she have done better? Moved faster, saved more. The door unlocked. She sat up. An MP, different one this time, stood in the doorway. "You have a visitor." Corporal Hayes stepped in. The MP closed the door but didn't lock it, gave them privacy. Hayes looked nervous, young, like he'd wandered into something way over his head. "Hey," he said. "Hey. I heard what happened. Everyone's talking about it." "I bet." Hayes sat on the edge of the cot, keeping distance. "They're saying you went full Rambo, one-woman army stuff. It wasn't like that." "What was it like?" Elena considered. "Necessary." He nodded like he understood, even though he clearly didn't. "Is it true? You really took out 40 insurgents?" "I didn't count. The after-action report did. 43 confirmed. 7 probables." Hayes shook his head. That's insane. It's ballistics. It's impossible." Elena almost smiled. "Apparently not." Hayes leaned forward, voice dropping. "People are splitting. Half think you're a hero, half think you're a traitor. What do you think?" He met her eyes. "I think you knew. Before anyone else. You tried to warn them, and they shut you down. So you did what you had to do." "That's generous." "It's true, isn't it?" Elena didn't answer. The silence said enough. Hayes stood, started pacing, nervous energy with nowhere to go. "What's going to happen? To you, I mean. Court-martial, probably. Dishonorable discharge. Maybe prison." "That's not fair." "Fair doesn't matter. Rules do. Even when the rules get people killed? Especially then." Elena watched him pace. "The military runs on order, chain of command. If everyone just did what they thought was right, it'd be chaos." "But you were right. This time." Hayes stopped. "You don't regret it?" "No." "Then why are you defending them?" "Good question." Elena thought about it. "Because the system works most of the time. Today was an exception, but exceptions can't become the rule." "So you're just going to take the punishment? Let them crucify you for saving lives?" "I'm going to accept the consequences of my choices." Hayes stared at her like she was speaking another language. "You're unbelievable." "I'm realistic." He bit off the word, shook his head. "I don't understand you." "You don't have to." The MP knocked on the door. Time was up. Hayes moved to leave, paused. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you were out there. A lot of guys wouldn't be coming home if you weren't. Tell them to be smarter next time. Follow their instincts. Question bad intel." "Like you did?" "Exactly like I did." Hayes left. Elena lay back down, stared at the ceiling, waited. Night fell. The FOB's lights created pools of harsh white against deep shadows. Elena drifted in and out of sleep, her body finally crashing from the adrenaline burn. She dreamed of crosshairs, wind calculations, the moment of release before the shot. A sound woke her. Voices outside, low, urgent. The door rattled. Keys in the lock. Elena sat up, instantly alert. The door swung open. Staff Sergeant Vega stood there, backlit by the security lights. His face was unreadable. "Get up," he said. Elena stood. "What's happening?" "You're coming with me." "Where?" "Questions later. Move now." Something in his tone made her comply. She followed him out into the night. No MPS this time. Just Vega, moving fast through shadows between buildings. They reached the operations center. Inside, lights blazed. The main screen showed satellite footage of Karsa Basin, live feed, still smoking. A dozen officers crowded the room. Captain Oakes, Lieutenant Colonel Barnes, others Elena recognized from the convoy briefing, and at the center, looking at her with an expression she couldn't parse, Colonel Sarah Hendricks, base commander, the woman who ran FOB Sentinel. Sergeant Cruz, Hendricks said. Her voice was controlled, measured, the kind of calm that came before storms. Come here. Elena approached. Every eye tracked her. Hendricks gestured to the screen. We've been conducting post-action analysis of the engagement, reviewing drone footage, correlating insurgent casualties with firing positions. Elena said nothing, waited. Do you know what we found? No, ma'am. Hendricks tapped a key. The screen shifted, aerial view of the western ridge where Elena had taken position. Red markers indicated each firing location. Lines traced the ballistics back to a single point, her position. 63 shots, Hendricks said. 43 confirmed kills, 7 probables, 3 misses. She looked at Elena. Do you know what the accuracy rate is for combat snipers under fire? Approximately 60%, ma'am. You maintain 95% accuracy, under combat stress, at extreme range, with no spotter, no support. Hendricks crossed her arms. How? The room waited. Elena felt the pressure of their attention. These weren't simple questions. They were tests, evaluations. I controlled what I could control, ma'am. Wind, breathing, trigger discipline. I eliminated variables. You eliminated 43 human beings. The words hung heavy. Elena met Hendricks' eyes. I eliminated 43 threats to friendly forces. There's a difference? In my scope? Yes, ma'am. Hendricks studied her, then nodded slowly, like Elena had passed some invisible threshold. Captain Oakes? Hendricks said, without looking away from Elena. Your assessment of Sergeant Cruz's actions. Oakes shifted. His earlier rage had cooled into something harder. Gross insubordination, reckless endangerment, violation of... I asked for your assessment, not the charges. Oakes's jaw worked. She saved the convoy. Could you have done it without her? Silence. Captain, I asked you a question. Oakes' voice came out tight. No, ma'am. We were pinned down, outgunned. Without her overwatch, casualties would have been severe. How severe? Potentially catastrophic. Hendricks turned to Barnes. Colonel? Barnes stepped forward. From a tactical standpoint, Sergeant Cruz identified a threat that our intelligence missed. She adapted to a fluid situation and provided fire support that prevented a massacre. He paused. She also broke every rule doing it. Can both things be true? They have to be, ma'am, because they are. Hendricks walked to the window, stared out at the dark FOB. Sergeant Cruz, do you know why you were never accepted to sniper school? I was told I didn't meet physical requirements, ma'am. That's bureaucratic language. The real reason. Hendricks turned. Your psychological evaluation flagged you as too independent, too willing to question authority. Assessors worried you'd become a liability in a team environment. Elena said nothing. What could she say? Turns out they were right, Hendricks continued. You are too independent. You do question authority, and today that saved 480 lives. She moved closer. But it also created a command crisis. If every Marine starts deciding which orders to follow based on personal judgment, we don't have a military. We have armed chaos. I understand, ma'am. Do you? Hendricks' voice sharpened. Because I'm looking at a Marine who committed multiple violations severe enough for a general court-martial. But I'm also looking at the only reason my casualty report isn't a catastrophe. So tell me, Sergeant, what am I supposed to do with you? The question hung in the air like smoke. Elena felt every officer's attention pressing down. This was it. The moment. Whatever she said next would determine everything. She straightened. Whatever serves the Corps, ma'am. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Hendricks stared at her, then unexpectedly laughed, short and sharp. You're either brilliantly humble or dangerously sincere. I can't tell which. She turned to the assembled officers. Gentlemen, let's be clear about what happened today. Our intelligence failed, our planning failed, our leadership, myself included, failed to listen to a subordinate who saw threats we missed. Sergeant Cruz shouldn't have had to go rogue to save lives. She should have been heard in the first place. Oakes flushed red. Ma'am, Hendricks cut him off with a look. I'm not finished. What Cruz did was insubordinate. It was also necessary. Both things are true, and we have to reconcile them. She faced Elena again. You're not getting a court-martial. Relief tried to surface. Elena pushed it down. But you're not getting away clean either, Hendricks continued. Formal reprimand, reduction in rank to corporal, suspended pay for 30 days. She paused. And mandatory reassignment. Elena's stomach dropped. Reassignment meant kicked out, sent home, career over in everything but name. You're being transferred, Hendricks said, to the 3rd Marine Division Scout Sniper Platoon. Effective immediately. The room went silent. Elena blinked. Ma'am? You wanted sniper school? Congratulations. You just field-tested your way in. Hendricks picked up a folder, handed it to Barnes. Colonel Barnes is recommending you for advanced training. Given your demonstrated capabilities, I'm approving it. Elena took the folder with numb hands, opened it. Official orders, transfer paperwork, school dates. It was real. You'll complete formal sniper training, Hendricks continued. Learn to work with a spotter, integrate into a team, follow proper channels. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. Can you really? Because questioning authority is in your DNA, Cruz. I saw it today. The Corps needs that, needs people who think independently, but we also need discipline, structure. You have to find a way to balance both. I will, ma'am. Hendricks nodded. You ship out in 72 hours. Dismissed. Elena saluted, turned to leave. Cruz. She stopped. Hendricks' expression softened just slightly. Off the record? You did good work today. Reckless, insubordinate, against every regulation good work. Don't make me regret not throwing you in the brig. I won't, ma'am. Outside, the night air hit Elena like cold water. She stood on the operations center steps, holding the folder, trying to process what just happened. Vega waited below. He looked up at her, his earlier hostility replaced by something complicated. Guess you got lucky, he said. Guess so. For the record, Vega's voice dropped. I still think you're crazy, but you've got balls, I'll give you that. But thanks? He almost smiled. Range-only cruise, huh? Maybe we had that wrong. Maybe. He walked away, leaving Elena alone under the stars. She looked down at the folder, at the orders that would change everything. 3 days ago, she was invisible, dead weight, ignored. Now she was being sent to sniper school, the place that had rejected her twice before, because she'd proven them all wrong. Elena walked back toward her temporary quarters, no longer a cell now, just temporary housing. MPs nodded as she passed. Word spread fast. Inside, she sat on the cot, opened the folder again, read every line. Her hands still shook slightly, not from fear, from the weight of what she'd done, what it cost, what it earned. 63 rounds, 0 friendly KIA. A career saved by breaking every rule. She thought about the Marines she'd pulled out of that kill box. Thought about Hayes probably telling everyone about the crazy sergeant who went full ghost. Thought about the guys who laughed at her, who called her dead weight, now having to reconcile the fact that she'd saved their lives. The irony wasn't lost on her. Elena closed the folder, lay back on the cot. Outside, the FOB hummed with its familiar nighttime rhythm. Generators, guard rotations, the sound of a military base that never really slept. But something had shifted. In 3 days, she'd leave this place. Start over, prove herself all over again in a new environment, but this time, she wouldn't be invisible. This time, they'd be watching. And Elena Cruz, Ghost 17, would show them exactly what she was capable of when they actually paid attention. She closed her eyes. Let exhaustion finally claim her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new doubts, new people who underestimated her. But tonight, 480 Marines were alive because one ignored sniper chose to act, and that was enough. The next morning broke gray and cold. Elena woke to a knock on her door, no longer locked. She opened it to find Hayes standing there with 2 cups of coffee and a nervous smile. Heard the news, he said. Figured you might need this. She took the coffee. Thanks. Sniper school. That's huge. It's something. Hayes hesitated. Look, I know I'm just a corporal, and you probably don't want advice from someone who barely knows which end of the rifle the bullet comes out of. Hayes. But I think you should know that people are talking. Good talk. Respect talk. You changed minds yesterday. Elena sipped the coffee. Terrible, as always. Perfect. Minds change back. Not this time. He met her eyes. You proved something, not just to them, to yourself. She wanted to argue, to point out that respect was fleeting, that heroism faded, that in 3 months someone would forget and she'd be fighting the same battles all over again. But maybe Hayes was right. Maybe something had fundamentally shifted. What are you going to do? Hayes asked. At sniper school? Elena thought about it, about the training ahead, the scrutiny, the pressure to perform. Same thing I did yesterday, she said quietly. Control what I can control. Eliminate variables. Take the shot. Hayes grinned. They're not ready for you. Nobody ever is. They stood in comfortable silence, drinking terrible coffee and watching the FOB wake up around them. Somewhere in the distance, a rifle range opened. The crack of gunfire echoed across the desert. Elena smiled. She was going home. 3 days vanished like smoke. Elena spent them in a strange limbo, no longer detained, not quite free. She cleaned her rifle obsessively, ran the perimeter at dawn, and avoided the chow hall where whispers followed like shadows. The transfer orders sat in her footlocker, edges already worn from repeated reading. On the morning of departure, she packed light. Uniforms, personal items, her dope book, every shot she'd ever logged, now evidence of something bigger than target practice. A Humvee idled outside her quarters at 0600. The driver, a lance corporal she didn't know, barely looked at her. Airfield, he said. Wheels up in 40. Elena threw her pack in back and climbed in. The FOB rolled past the windows one last time. Guard towers, motor pool, the range where she'd spent hundreds of hours. It already felt like someone else's memory. At the airfield, a C-130 squatted on the tarmac, engines warming. A handful of Marines milled around, transfers, rotations, people moving between one chapter and the next. Elena walked toward the ramp. Cruz! She turned. Hayes jogged over, out of breath. Almost missed you. You're up early. Couldn't let you leave without... He trailed off, struggling for words. Without saying you inspired me. Made me think about what it means to actually serve instead of just following orders. Elena managed a small smile. Don't get yourself court-martialed trying to be me. Noted. He extended his hand. She shook it, firm, brief. Hayes stepped back, saluted. Elena returned it, then turned and walked up the ramp into the belly of the aircraft. The loadmaster directed her to webbing seats along the fuselage. She strapped in between a gunnery sergeant who immediately fell asleep and a private who looked airsick before they even took off. The engines roared, the ramp sealed, the world reduced to vibration and noise. Elena closed her eyes as the C-130 lumbered into the sky, carrying her toward a future she'd earned in 63 trigger pulls. Marine Corps Scout Sniper School occupied a sprawling facility in the high desert. Ranges that stretched for miles, kill houses for urban training, and a reputation for breaking more candidates than it graduated. Elena arrived at 1800 hours, dust from the landing strip still clinging to her uniform. An instructor waited at the edge of the tarmac. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Chen, barrel-chested and stone-faced. Corporal Cruz, he said without preamble, you're late. Transport was delayed, Gunnery Sergeant. I don't care. Your class started orientation 3 hours ago. You're already behind. Elena shouldered her pack. Where do I report? Chen pointed to a low-slung building across the compound. Barracks, 2nd floor. Bunk assignments posted. Be in classroom A at 0530 tomorrow. Don't be late again. Aye, Gunnery Sergeant. She double-timed across the compound. The place hummed with controlled intensity. Marines running drills, instructors barking corrections. The distant crack of rifle fire. Inside the barracks, she found her name on a roster. 2nd floor, 3rd bunk from the door. She climbed the stairs, pushed through to the bay. 20 bunks. 19 occupied. Conversation stopped when she entered. Every head turned. Elena recognized the look. She'd seen it at FOB Sentinel, at boot camp, at every posting she'd ever had. Evaluation, judgment. The unspoken question, "What are you doing here?" She walked to her bunk, started unpacking. "You're the one from Alvarado," a voice said. Elena looked up. The Marine in the next bunk sat forward, tall, rangy, with a Kansas accent and sharp eyes. His name tape read Fletcher. "Yeah," Elena said. "Heard you went lone wolf, saved a battalion." "I provided overwatch." "That's not what the scuttlebutt says." Fletcher grinned. "Says you disobeyed orders, climbed a mountain, and turned into the angel of death for an hour." Scuttlebutt exaggerates. "Does it?" Another voice from across the bay, harder, less friendly. "Because from where I'm sitting, you're a glory hound who got lucky and somehow spun insubordination into a school slot." Elena turned. The speaker sat on his bunk, arms crossed, built like a linebacker, face set in permanent skepticism. Name tape, Morrison. "I did my job," Elena said evenly. "Your job was following orders. You ignored them. That makes you a liability." "Morrison? Ease up," Fletcher said. "She's here now. Earned her spot like everyone else." "She earned a court-martial. This is political." Elena set down her gear, looked Morrison in the eye. "You think I got here on politics?" "I think the Corps is desperate for feel-good stories. Female Marine goes Rambo, perfect PR." The bay went quiet, waiting. Elena felt the familiar weight of proving herself. Again, always again. "Think whatever you want," she said quietly. "I'm here to learn, not to convince you." Morrison's expression didn't change. "We'll see how long you last." She turned back to her unpacking, let the silence speak for her. Fletcher leaned over. "Don't mind him. He's just pissed because his buddy washed out last cycle." "Noted. For what it's worth, I believe the stories." Elena glanced at him. "Why?" "Because nobody makes it through pre-selection unless they can shoot. And nobody shoots like they say you did without serious skill." He extended a hand. "Ryan Fletcher, Scout Sniper, 2nd Battalion." She shook it. "Elena Cruz." "I know. Everyone knows." He grinned. "You're kind of famous." "Great. Could be worse. Could be invisible." Elena almost laughed. "Been there. It's not better." The alarm ripped through the barracks at 04:45, 45 minutes earlier than Chen had said. Elena was already awake, dressed, boots laced, old habits. Around her, Marines scrambled out of bunks, cursing and fumbling in the dark. "Move, move, move!" Chen's voice boomed from the doorway. "You've got 3 minutes to be in formation outside. Anyone late runs 5 miles with full pack." Bodies surged toward the door. Elena moved with them, calm in the chaos. Outside, the desert air bit cold. Stars still hung overhead. The class formed up in ragged lines, 20 candidates, various states of readiness. Chen walked the formation, eyes tracking every detail. He stopped in front of a Marine whose bootlaces trailed. "Name?" "Corporal Williams, Gunnery Sergeant." "Williams? You planning to trip and shoot your spotter in the back of the head?" "No, Gunnery Sergeant." "Then fix your laces. And give me 50. Williams dropped, started pushing. Chen continued his inspection, stopped at Elena. "Cruz." "Gunnery Sergeant." He looked her over. Uniform crisp, boots polished, eyes forward. "Heard about your performance at Alvarado." "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." "Impressive shooting, terrible judgment." Elena said nothing. "Here, we teach you to do both. Shoot straight and follow orders. Think you can handle that?" "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." Chen's eyes narrowed. "We'll see." He addressed the formation. "Welcome to Scout Sniper School. Some of you think you're here because you're good. You're wrong. You're here because you passed pre-selection, which means you're minimally competent. Good gets you through this course. Great gets you deployed. Average gets you sent back to your unit in shame." He paced. "This program lasts 8 weeks. You'll learn fieldcraft, stalking, range estimation, ballistics, observation, and how to operate as a team. Notice I said team. Lone wolves don't survive in this community. You will work with a spotter. You will trust your partner. You will integrate or you will fail. His eyes found Elena, held for a beat. You've got 30 seconds to partner up. Choose wisely. Your spotter's incompetence can get you killed just as easily as your own. Marines scattered, forming pairs. Elena stood still, watching the calculus play out. Fletcher appeared at her elbow. Partners? Before she could answer, Morrison stepped between them. I'll take Cruz, Morrison said. Fletcher blinked. I thought you said she was a liability. I did, which is why I want to see it up close. Morrison looked at Elena. Unless you're afraid you can't keep up. Elena studied him, saw the challenge, the test. Fine, she said. Fletcher stepped back, looking uncertain. Your funeral. Morrison's expression didn't change. Let's see if the legend lives up to the hype. The first week was designed to break them. 20-mile ruck marches under full load, classroom instruction that lasted until midnight, practical exercises at dawn. Sleep became a luxury measured in minutes. Elena and Morrison moved through it like fighters in opposite corners, technically partnered, fundamentally opposed. On the range, Morrison spotted for her with mechanical precision, called wind, calculated distance, but his voice carried a constant edge. Wind 2.5, left to right. Adjust or miss. Your call. Elena adjusted, fired, hit center mass at 800 meters. Lucky, Morrison muttered. She ignored him, cycled the bolt. Again, target left, 900 meters. Fire. Hit. Wind shifting. You're not compensating enough. Fire. Hit. Morrison's jaw tightened. Anyone can hit static targets. Then it should be easy for you. They swapped positions. Morrison took the rifle. Elena pulled out the spotting scope. She called the shots with clinical accuracy, no emotion, no editorializing, just data. Morrison fired. Hit, fired, hit, good. Not great. After 15 rounds, they packed up. Moved to the next station. You're calculating wrong, Elena said. Morrison's head snapped around. Excuse me? You're dope. You're using standard ballistic coefficients. But this ammunition lot is different. Heavier grain, different powder charge. Your calculations are off by 0.3. I know what I'm doing. Then why are you hitting low left every time? Morrison's face flushed. I'm not. You are. Check your impacts. He pulled the spotting scope, studied the target. Every hit, low and left. Consistent error. He lowered the scope. How did you... I logged every shot, tracked the pattern. Elena pulled out her notebook, showed him her calculations. Adjust your ballistic coefficient to 0.547 instead of 0.520. You'll center up. Morrison stared at the numbers, then at her. Why help me? Because you're my partner, and I don't fail. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite respect, but the beginning of it. By week 3, the class had shrunk to 16. 4 washed out, injuries, academic failures, psychological evaluations. Elena and Morrison found a rhythm. Still not friendly, but functional. On the stalking range, a miles-long stretch of terrain where candidates had to move undetected within 200 meters of instructors, they worked in tandem. Morrison crawled through thick brush, moving inches at a time. Elena followed, matching his pace. Ahead, Gunnery Sergeant Chen sat on a folding chair with binoculars, scanning for movement. Too slow, Morrison whispered. We'll run out of time. Too fast and he'll spot us. I know the angles. We can cut through that gully. The gully's a trap. He's waiting for someone to do exactly that. Morrison paused. How do you know? Because that's where I'd position myself. He considered, then nodded. Okay, your call. They took the long route, painfully slow, every movement calculated. It took 90 minutes to cover 150 meters. But they reached the final position undetected. Elena keyed her radio. Go 17 in position, Chen's voice crackled back. Confirm location. She called out the terrain features. Grid coordinates. A pause. Well, I'll be damned, Chen said. You're 20 meters from me and I never saw you move. Well done. Morrison keyed his radio. Eagle 6 in position. Confirmed. Same time as cruise. Good work. They extracted, moving back through the course. In the debrief tent, Chen addressed the class. Today, 12 of you attempted the stalk. 4 were spotted. 6 exceeded time limits. 2 completed successfully. He looked at Elena and Morrison. Cruz and Morrison demonstrated textbook fieldcraft. Slow, deliberate, patient. Morrison glanced at Elena, something like grudging acknowledgement. She didn't react, just listened. Week 5 brought live-fire urban scenarios. Kill houses filled with hostage targets mixed among threats. Split-second decisions. High stress. Elena and Morrison drew the midnight slot. Pitch black, NVGs only. 2 minutes to clear the structure. They stacked at the entrance. "I'll take left sectors," Morrison said. "You cover right." "Copy." The timer started. They flowed through the door like water, smooth, coordinated. Morrison identified targets through his scope. Elena confirmed through hers. "Hostile 10 o'clock." "Confirmed." Morrison fired. The target dropped. They advanced, room to room. The partnership that had been forced now moved with unconscious precision. 2 hostiles, stairwell. "I've got left." "Taking right." Both fired simultaneously, both targets down. They cleared the building in 90 seconds. 0 friendly casualties. Perfect score. Outside, Chen waited with a stopwatch. 90 seconds. Perfect run. He looked between them. "Whatever you two did, keep doing it." Morrison looked at Elena. "Not bad." "You either." "Still think I'm a glory hound?" He almost smiled. "I think you're competent." High praise. "Take it. It's all you're getting." But the edge was gone, replaced by something harder to define. Trust. Week 7. Final evaluation looming. The class down to 14. Elena sat in the barracks late at night, updating her dope book. Around her, Marines slept or studied, the air thick with exhaustion. Fletcher dropped onto his bunk. "You know Morrison's telling people you're the best shot he's ever seen." Elena looked up. "He said that?" "Behind your back, won't say it to your face, but yeah." Fletcher grinned. "Hell's frozen over. We're partners. We had to figure it out. Most partners don't. They tolerate each other. You two actually work." Elena thought about it. "He stopped trying to prove I didn't belong, started treating me like a sniper." "And you?" "Stopped caring what he thought, started caring whether we succeeded." Fletcher nodded. "That's the secret, isn't it? Stop fighting the perception. Just perform. Every single day. Gets tiring." "Everything tires you out here." He laughed. "Lay back." "1 more week, then we're official." Elena returned to her notebook. "If we pass." "You'll pass. You're the only one Chen hasn't ripped apart yet." "He's saving it for finals." "Probably." Fletcher closed his eyes. "Doesn't matter. You've already proven you can do this. The rest is just ceremony." Elena hoped he was right. The final exercise came without warning. At 0300 hours, the barracks lights blazed. An alarm shrieked. "All candidates outside, now!" Elena grabbed her rifle and sprinted. Around her, Marines poured from bunks in various states of panic. Outside, 3 Humvees idled in formation. Chen stood beside them, face grim. "Listen up. We just received intel on a hostile force moving through Sector 7. 14 insurgents, heavily armed, heading towards civilian population center. You have 90 minutes to intercept and neutralize. This is a live-fire exercise with op for playing hostile forces. Rules of engagement are standard. Positive ID required. Civilian casualties are automatic failure." He pointed to the vehicles. "Candidates 1 through 6, Vehicle 1. 7 through 12, Vehicle 2. 13 and 14. Cruz and Morrison, your Vehicle 3. Your vehicle will drop you 2 clicks from the target zone. You'll provide overwatch while the assault teams engage." Elena's pulse kicked up. This was it. The test behind the test. "Mount up! Move!" They ran for the Humvees. Elena and Morrison threw their gear in the back of Vehicle 3 and climbed in. The driver, a corporal who looked too awake for 0300, gunned the engine. "Hang on!" The convoy roared into the desert darkness. Morrison checked his rifle. 2 clicks. That's close for overwatch. "It's a test," Elena said. They want to see if we can adapt. Or they're setting us up to fail. Probably both. The Humvee bounced over rough terrain, headlights cutting through darkness. Elena ran calculations in her head. Range, wind, likely positions. 15 minutes later, the vehicle skidded to a stop. "This is your drop," the driver shouted. "Move!" They bailed out. The Humvee tore away, leaving them in sudden silence. Morrison pulled out his GPS. "Target zone is northeast, 2.3 clicks." Elena scanned the terrain through NVGs. Rolling hills, sparse vegetation, limited cover. There, she pointed to a ridgeline. Elevation advantage, clear sight lines. That's at least 3 clicks from the engagement zone. "We'll have to shoot far." Morrison looked at her. "How far?" 1,200 meters, maybe more. "That's extreme range. Can you spot it?" A pause. Then, "Yeah, I can spot it." "Then let's move." They ran. The ridgeline rose steep and mean. They climbed fast, breath ragged, rifles slung across their backs. At the crest, they dropped prone. Morrison deployed the spotting scope. Elena set up her rifle. Below, the target zone spread out, a mock village with building facades and vehicles. In the green glow of NVGs, figures moved. OP4, in insurgent dress. And between the buildings, blue chem sticks, civilian markers. "Count 14 hostiles," Morrison said, "mixed with approximately 20 civilians." "Rules of engagement?" "Positive ID, no civilian casualties." Elena ranged the distance. 1,340 meters. Her longest confirmed shot had been 1,150. "That's a hell of a shot," Morrison said quietly. "It's the job." Below, the assault team's Humvees rolled into position, Marines deployed, moving toward the village. Then, chaos. OP4 opened fire. Blanks, but loud enough to simulate real gunfire. Marines scattered, taking cover. Chen's voice crackled over the radio. "Overwatch, this is command. We're pinned. Need you to neutralize hostile positions. How copy?" Elena keyed her mic. "Overwatch copies, stand by." She settled into her scope. The world narrowed. Target 1. Hostile on a rooftop, firing down at Marines. Civilian marker 3 meters away. Range, 1,340 meters. Wind, variable, left to right. Temperature dropping. She calculated, adjusted. "Wind 2.8, Morrison called. Elevation plus 12. Elena dialed. "Breathe." She fired. The suppressed crack echoed across the desert. Downrange, the hostile dropped. "Hit," Morrison confirmed. "Target 2. Hostile behind a vehicle. 1,290 meters. Morrison called it. Elena adjusted. Fired. "Hit." Target 3, 4, 5. Each shot perfect. Each adjustment instant. The OP4 began to panic, voices shouting, confusion spreading. "Where's that coming from?" "Someone's got Overwatch!" Below, the assault teams advanced, capitalizing on the suppression. Elena kept firing. Morrison kept calling. They moved like one organism, one thought, one purpose, 12 targets down, 2 remaining. Then the scenario shifted. A civilian marker moved, sprinting between buildings. Behind him, a hostile raised his weapon. "Hostile pursuing civilian," Morrison barked. 1,410 meters. Longest shot yet. Moving target. Civilian in potential crossfire. "I don't have the shot," Elena said. "You have to take it. If I miss..." "You won't miss. Take the damn shot." Elena's finger found the trigger. Her breathing slowed. Time stretched. The hostile's weapon tracked the civilian. 1 more second and he'd fire. Elena adjusted, led the target, calculated the impossible, and squeezed. The rifle cracked. The bullet crossed 1,410 meters in 1.8 seconds. The hostile dropped. The civilian kept running, clean. Morrison's voice came out breathless. "Holy hell, Cruz!" The final hostile surrendered. The scenario ended. Radio chatter exploded. "All hostiles neutralized! 0 civilian casualties! Mission complete!" Chen's voice cut through. "Overwatch, confirm your position." Elena keyed her mic. "Grid November 73482." A pause. You're telling me you just engaged from 1,400 meters out? Yes, gunnery sergeant. Another pause. Longer. Get back to base. Now! They packed up, started the long climb down. Morrison broke the silence. That last shot, I've never seen anything like that. You called it perfectly. I gave you numbers. You made it real. He looked at her. I was wrong about you. At the start, I thought you were here because of politics, because the Corps needed a win. And now? Now I think you're here because you're the best shooter I've ever worked with. And I'm not just saying that. Elena didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. They walked back through the desert in silence. But it was a different kind of silence now. Respect, recognition, partnership. The things she'd been fighting for since day one. Dawn broke as they reached base. The other candidates gathered around, questions flying. How far were you? Did you really hit from 1,400? What was your wind call? Elena deflected. Let Morrison field the questions. Gunnery Sergeant Chen waited at the barracks entrance, his expression unreadable. Cruz, Morrison, my office, now. They followed him into a small building. Inside, he pulled out a folder. Final scores, he said. Morrison, 87%. Excellent work. You pass. Morrison exhaled. Chen turned to Elena. Cruz, 96%. Highest score in this cycle. Second highest in school history. Elena blinked. Gunnery Sergeant? You earned it, every point. He closed the folder. But I need you to understand something. The shot you made tonight? That was exceptional, professional grade, the kind of thing that gets written up in after-action reports. Thank you, Gunnery Sergeant. I'm not complimenting you, I'm warning you. Chen's voice hardened. You have a gift, a rare one. But gifts make you valuable, and valuable makes you a target. People will expect miracles. Command will deploy you into impossible situations because they know you can handle them. He leaned forward. So here's my question. Are you ready for that? For the weight of being the Marine everyone turns to when everything's going to hell? Elena thought about Alvarado Valley, about 480 Marines, about choices made in seconds that echoed for lifetimes. I've already carried that weight, Gunnery Sergeant. Chen studied her, then nodded slowly. Yeah, he said quietly. I guess you have. He stood, extended his hand. Welcome to the Scout Sniper community, Corporal Cruz. Don't make me regret graduating you. She shook his hand. Firm. Sure. I won't, Gunnery Sergeant. Outside, Morrison waited. When Elena emerged, he fell into step beside her. So, he said, we're officially snipers now. Officially. That means we're probably getting deployed together. Probably. He grinned. I can live with that. Elena almost smiled. Me too. They walked across the compound as the sun climbed higher. Around them, the Scout Sniper School continued its brutal rhythm, new candidates arriving, old ones washing out, the eternal cycle of making Marines into something sharper. But for Elena Cruz, Ghost 17, the cycle had completed. She'd proven herself, earned her place, become the sniper they said she'd never be. And somewhere, in a valley far away, 480 Marines were alive because she'd refused to accept impossible as an answer. That truth settled into her bones like certainty. She was ready for whatever came next. Graduation came with little ceremony, a formation under harsh sun, handshakes from instructors, official certificates that meant everything and nothing simultaneously. Elena stood at attention with 13 other newly qualified Scout snipers, feeling the weight of the achievement settle into her chest. Morrison stood 2 positions down, shoulders back, eyes forward. They'd all made it through 8 weeks of calculated brutality, but making it through was just the beginning. Gunnery Sergeant Chen addressed the formation one final time. You are now certified Scout snipers. You will deploy to combat zones. You will be asked to make impossible shots under impossible conditions. Some of you will excel. Some of you will fail. All of you will be tested. His eyes found Elena. Dismissed. The formation broke. Marines scattered toward families waiting at the edges of the compound. Parents, spouses, Kids running forward with balloons and signs. Elena had no one waiting. She walked toward the barracks alone, carrying her certificate in one hand and her deployment orders in the other. The orders had arrived that morning, sealed in the official envelope that meant her next chapter was already written. Afghanistan. 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. Report date, 14 days. Fletcher caught up with her at the barracks steps. Hey, no family showed? They're not military, Elena said. Long flight for a ceremony. That's rough. He gestured to his orders. Where'd you draw? Afghanistan. You? Same. 3rd Battalion. His eyes widened. Wait, we're going to the same unit? Looks like it. Damn, that's actually good. I mean, going in with someone who knows the deal. He paused. Morrison too? Elena checked her orders again. Saw Morrison's name on the roster. Yeah, him too. Fletcher grinned. The trio rides again? This is going to be interesting. That's one word for it. Inside the barracks, Marines packed their gear with the efficiency of people who'd done it 100 times. Elena moved to her bunk, started breaking down her footlocker. Everything she owned fit into 2 duffel bags and a rifle case. Morrison appeared at her elbow. Afghanistan. Yeah. Helmand Province. They're saying it's heating up again, Taliban pushing back hard. When isn't it heating up? He almost smiled. Fair point. He shifted his weight. Look, I know we got off on the wrong foot, but out there, in country, I want you to know I've got your back. Elena met his eyes, saw sincerity where there'd once been contempt. I know you do, and I've got yours. He nodded, extended his hand. She shook it, firm, final. See you in 14 days, Ghost. See you there, Eagle. He walked away. Elena returned to packing. 14 days to settle her affairs. Say goodbyes. Prepare for a deployment that would test everything she'd learned. She zipped her duffel, shouldered her rifle case. Time to go home first, then to war. Home was a small apartment in San Diego, close enough to military bases that rent stayed expensive, far enough from the beach that it felt forgettable. Elena's mother opened the door before she could knock, pulling her into a hug that smelled like cooking oil and worry. Mi hija, her mother whispered. You look thin. I'm fine, Mama. You always say that. Her mother pulled back, studying her face. But I see it. In your eyes. Something changed. Elena carried her bags inside. The apartment was small but immaculate, photos on every surface, religious candles her mother lit, despite Elena's protests. The smell of something simmering on the stove. Her younger brother Luis sat on the couch, controller in hand, eyes locked on a video game. Hey, sis, heard you became a badass. Language, their mother snapped. What? It's true. She's literally a trained sniper now. Their mother crossed herself. Don't say that so loud. What will the neighbors think? Elena dropped her bags. The neighbors won't care, Mama. You don't know that. Mrs. Rodriguez already asks too many questions. She moved to the stove, stirring something that steamed. Are you hungry? Of course you're hungry. Sit, eat. Elena sat at the small kitchen table, the same one from childhood, scarred and familiar. Luis paused his game, walked over. So, what was it like? Sniper school? Hard. That's it? Just hard? Very hard. He grinned. Come on, give me something. Did you shoot from like a mile away? Close enough. That's insane. You know that's insane, right? Their mother set down a plate, rice, beans, chicken in red sauce. Enough talk about shooting. She's home. That's what matters. Elena ate while her mother hovered, refilling her plate before it was half empty. Luis peppered her with questions. What kind of rifle? What's the farthest shot? Did she ever get scared? Was it like Call of Duty? It's nothing like Call of Duty, Elena said. But the basics are the same, right? Point and shoot? If it was that simple, everyone would be a sniper. Luis leaned back. When do you deploy? 2 weeks. The kitchen went quiet. Her mother's hand stilled on the serving spoon. Afghanistan, Elena added. Helmand Province. Her mother's voice came out tight. That's dangerous. It's all dangerous, Mama. But that place especially. I see the news, the attacks, the... She stopped, composed herself. How long? 7 months, maybe more. Her mother turned away, facing the stove, her shoulders rigid. Luis looked between them. I'm gonna go finish my game. He left. The apartment felt smaller with just the two of them. Elena stood, moved to her mother's side. Mama! You don't have to explain. Her mother's voice was steady, practiced. This is what you chose, I understand. Do you? No. Her mother turned, eyes wet but not crying. I don't understand why you have to be the one to go, why you have to prove something, but I know you will, because that's who you are. Elena felt the words land heavy. I'm not trying to prove, yes you are, since you were little, always pushing, always climbing higher. Her mother touched her face. I'm proud of you, and I'm terrified for you. Both can be true. Elena's throat tightened. I'll be careful. You'll be in a war zone. Careful has limits. They stood in the small kitchen, the gap between them filled with everything unsaid. Elena wanted to promise she'd come home, that she'd be safe, that the training and skills and preparation would be enough. But promises in war were just lies with better intentions. So she hugged her mother instead. Let the gesture say what words couldn't. I love you, Mama. I love you too, mija. So much. That the 2 weeks evaporated like water in desert heat. Elena spent them preparing, packing gear, updating her will, attending pre-deployment briefs at Camp Pendleton. The briefs were clinical. Threat assessments, rules of engagement, casualty evacuation procedures. The things they tell you so they can say they told you. On the final day, she returned to base early. The transport manifest listed 0600 departure, but Elena wanted time, space. A moment to center herself before the machinery of deployment consumed everything. She walked to the range, empty at this hour, targets standing silent in the dawn gray. She'd brought her rifle, even though she wasn't supposed to have it yet. Technically, it was assigned to the armory until deployment. But Morrison had pulled strings, gotten her access for one last session. She set up at the 1,000-meter line, loaded 5 rounds. The world narrowed. Breathing slowed. Muscle memory took over. 5 shots, 5 perfect hits. You're getting predictable. Elena looked up. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes stood 10 meters away, hands in his pockets, watching. Sir, she stood. Didn't hear you approach. That's because you were in the zone. Good place to be. He walked closer, studying the targets downrange. Heard you graduated top of your class. Yes, sir. Also heard you made a 1,400-meter shot on a moving target during finals. Yes, sir. Barnes nodded slowly. You know what the Marine Corps record is for longest confirmed kill? 2,500 meters. Gunnery Sergeant Hathcock, Vietnam. Close. It's actually been broken since then, but Hathcock's record stood for decades because shots like that require more than skill. They require something else. He looked at her. What do you think that something is? Elena considered. Belief. That the impossible is just improbable with the right variables. Barnes smiled, genuine this time. That's a good answer. I'm going to ask you something, and I want the truth. No political answers. No what you think I want to hear answers. Yes, sir. Are you ready for this? For real combat deployment? Elena met his eyes. I've already been in combat, sir. Alvarado Valley. That was survival. This is mission-oriented combat. Different pressure. Different stakes. He paused. They're going to send you into situations because you're exceptional. And exceptional gets deployed to the worst situations. Can you handle that? She thought about the question, really thought. I don't know if anyone's ready for war, sir, but I'm trained, I'm prepared, and I'm willing. Willing to what? To do whatever it takes to bring my Marines home. Barnes studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled something from his pocket, a small metal case. He opened it, revealed a single round. Different from standard ammunition, heavier, custom-loaded. This belonged to a sniper I served with in Iraq. Best shooter I ever knew. He told me once that every sniper should carry one perfect round, not to fire, just to remember that perfection exists, that it's possible. He held it out. I want you to have it. Elena took the round. It was heavier than she expected. Sir, Don't argue. Just take it. And remember, you don't have to be perfect every time. You just have to be good enough when it counts. Yes, sir. He stepped back, saluted. Elena returned it. Barnes walked away, leaving her alone on the range with a perfect round and the weight of expectation. She looked at the round, at the targets, at the rifle. Then she packed up and headed to the rally point. It was time. The C-17 roared through darkness, carrying 200 Marines toward Afghanistan. The interior was cramped. Rows of seats down both sides, cargo netting holding equipment, the constant drone of engines making conversation difficult. Elena sat between Fletcher and Morrison, her rifle case secured between her knees. Around them, Marines tried to sleep, read, or stare into nothing. Fletcher leaned over. You nervous? Not nervous, alert. That's the same thing. No, nervous is emotional. Alert is tactical. Morrison snorted. She's right. Nervous gets you killed. Alert keeps you breathing. Fletcher looked between them. You two are going to be insufferable, aren't you? Probably, Elena said. The flight stretched on. Hours became meaningless. Elena dozed in snatches, never fully asleep, always aware of the vibration in her bones that meant they were still in the air. When they finally descended, the change in pressure woke everyone. Marines straightened, checked gear, prepared to step into a war zone. The C-17 touched down hard. Military landings didn't waste time being gentle. The ramp lowered, and Afghanistan poured in. Heat, dust, the smell of jet fuel, and something else, something old and violent. Welcome to Helmand, Morrison said. They filed off the aircraft onto a runway at Camp Leatherneck, a sprawling base that looked like every other forward operating base Elena had seen. HESCO barriers, prefab buildings, the controlled chaos of military logistics. A staff sergeant waited at the edge of the runway, clipboard in hand. 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, form up. They gathered. The staff sergeant checked names, assigned billeting, rattled off the deployment briefing they'd all heard before. You're here for 7 months. Possibly longer. Mission is to disrupt Taliban operations, secure population centers, and support Afghan National Army forces. Rules of engagement are strict. Positive ID required. Any questions? No one spoke. Good. Get settled. Briefing at 1800 hours. Dismissed. Elena grabbed her gear and followed the flow toward billeting. The quarters were identical to every base she'd seen, plywood boxes with cots and footlockers. She claimed a corner bunk, started unpacking. Fletcher took the bunk across from her. Morrison claimed one nearby. Home sweet home, Fletcher said. For 7 months, Morrison added. Elena didn't respond. She was already mentally cataloging the base, layouts, distances, fields of fire, the things snipers think about automatically. A knock on the door frame. A gunnery sergeant stood there, older, weathered, with the look of someone who'd seen too many deployments. Cruz? Here, Gunnery Sergeant. I'm Gunny Davis, Scout Sniper Platoon Commander. I need you in my office. Now. Elena followed him through the base to a small building marked SSTP, Scout Sniper Training Platoon. Inside, maps covered the walls. Weapon racks held rifles in various configurations. A planning table dominated the center. 3 other Marines stood around the table, all snipers, all watching her with evaluating eyes. Davis gestured to the table. Corporal Cruz, these are your team leaders. Staff Sergeant Romero, Sergeant Williams, Sergeant Park. They nodded. Elena returned it. Davis pulled up a map on the table, topographical overlay of Helmand Province. I've read your file. Alvarado Valley, sniper school scores, that 1,400-meter shot during finals. He looked up. Impressive record for someone with 0 prior deployments. Thank you, Gunnery Sergeant. I'm not complimenting you. I'm establishing baseline. He tapped the map. We're operating in some of the most hostile terrain in Afghanistan. Villages held by Taliban. IEDs on every route. Ambushes are standard operating procedure. We lose Marines here. Regularly. The room went quiet. Our job is to reduce those losses, provide overwatch. Identify threats before they become casualties. Can you do that? Elena looked at the map, at the villages and routes and danger markers. Yes, Gunnery Sergeant. I need more than yes. I need commitment. Because I'm about to put you in situations where one mistake gets people killed, where hesitation costs lives, where the shot you take or don't take determines if Marines go home in boxes or on their feet. She met his eyes. I've already made those calls, Gunnery Sergeant. I'll make them again. Davis studied her, then looked at Romero. You worked with female snipers before? Romero shrugged. Not personally, but I've heard stories. Some good, some bad. What's your assessment of Cruz? Haven't seen her shoot yet, can't assess. Davis turned back to Elena. Fair point. Tomorrow, 600. You'll demonstrate capabilities on our range. We need to verify school didn't just pass you for political reasons. Elena's jaw tightened. I earned my qualification, Gunnery Sergeant. Then you'll have no problem proving it. No, Gunnery Sergeant. Good. Dismissed. She walked out, feeling the familiar weight of proving herself. Again. Always again. Morrison and Fletcher waited outside. How'd it go? Fletcher asked. They want me to prove I belong. Morrison's expression darkened. They're hazing you. They're evaluating me. Same thing. Not quite. Elena started walking back toward billeting. They want to see if the reputation is real. Fine, I'll show them. You don't have to prove anything, Fletcher said. Your record speaks for itself. Records are paper. Bullets are real. They want real. Morrison fell into step. Then let's give them real. The range at Camp Leatherneck stretched across a valley floor, targets at various distances, from 200 to 1,500 meters. At 0600, the sun barely crested the mountains, turning the desert orange and gold. Elena set up at the firing line. Her M110 felt familiar in her hands, cleaned, zeroed, ready. Davis stood behind her with Romero, Williams, and Park. A small crowd had gathered. Word had spread about the female sniper from Alvarado Valley. Marines wanted to see if the stories were true. Standard qualification, Davis said. 5 rounds at 800 meters, 5 at 1,000, 3 at 1,200. You'll be timed. Elena loaded her magazine. Am I shooting cold bore or do I get a warm-up? Cold bore, like real combat. Copy that. She settled into position, checked wind, calculated range. The first target appeared at 800 meters, a silhouette barely visible in the morning haze. Elena breathed, adjusted, fired. The target dropped. She cycled the bolt. 4 more rounds, 4 more hits. The 1,000-meter targets were smaller, harder to see. Wind pushed harder at that distance. 5 shots, 5 hits. The crowd murmured. At 1,200 meters, the targets were barely dots. Elena had to calculate wind drift, bullet drop, even the curvature of the earth at this range. 3 shots. 3 perfect hits. She cleared her rifle, stood. Davis walked to the spotting scope, checked the targets. His expression didn't change. 15 for 15, he said. Perfect score. He looked at her. Do it again. Gunnery Sergeant? I said do it again. Anyone can get lucky once. Elena loaded another magazine. This time, she didn't hesitate. Didn't second guess. Just fired. 15 more rounds, 15 more hits. Davis checked the scope again. His jaw tightened. Again. Gunnery Sergeant, I said again. Something in his tone made the crowd go silent. This wasn't evaluation anymore. This was something else. Elena loaded the third magazine. Her shoulder ached from recoil. Her eyes burned from staring through the scope. But she fired again. 15 more rounds, 15 more hits, 45 consecutive shots. 0 misses. Davis lowered the scope, turned to face her. I had a daughter, he said quietly. She wanted to be a Marine. Infantry. Combat arms. I told her no, told her it was too dangerous, that women weren't built for it. His voice cracked slightly. She joined anyway. Army, deployed to Iraq, killed by an IED 3 weeks into her tour. The range went dead silent. I blame myself, Davis continued. Thought if I'd supported her, trained her better, prepared her more. Maybe she'd have come home. He paused. So when I see female Marines in combat roles, I test them, hard. Because I need to know they're ready, really ready, not just qualified on paper. He stepped closer to Elena. You're not just qualified, You're exceptional. And I was wrong to make you prove it 3 times. Elena didn't know what to say. Davis extended his hand. Welcome to Scout Sniper Platoon, Corporal Cruz. I'm glad you're here. She shook his hand, felt the weight of his words. Around them, Marines shifted. The evaluation was over. She'd proven herself, again. Romero stepped forward. 45 consecutive hits at combat distances. I've never seen that. Neither have I, Williams added. And I've been doing this for 8 years. Park just nodded. You're with me. We deploy in 3 days. I hope you're ready. Elena looked at them. At Davis. At the crowd of Marines who'd watched her shoot. I'm ready, she said. And this time she meant it. The next 3 days blurred together. Mission briefings, gear checks, final preparations. Elena and Morrison were assigned to Sergeant Park's team, providing overwatch for convoy operations through hostile territory. The night before deployment, Elena sat in the chow hall alone, forcing down food she didn't taste. Tomorrow, everything became real. Fletcher dropped into the seat across from her. Big day tomorrow. Yeah. Nervous? Alert, he grinned. Right. Alert. Not nervous. Morrison joined them, carrying a tray. We're rolling out at 0400. 4-vehicle convoy through Route Crimson. Intel says possible IED threat and small arms fire. Sounds fun, Fletcher said. Sounds like Tuesday, Morrison corrected. Elena pushed her food around. What's our position? Vehicle 3, middle of the convoy. We'll set up overwatch at each checkpoint. Morrison pulled out a map, traced the route. Here, here, and here. High ground, good sight lines. And if we get hit? We provide suppression while the convoy extracts. Standard stuff. Nothing standard here, Elena said. Morrison met her eyes. No, but we're as ready as we're going to be. They sat in silence, 3 snipers on the edge of war. Tomorrow, everything they'd trained for would be tested. Tomorrow, the shooting would be real. And Elena Cruz, Ghost 17, would find out if proving herself at school meant anything when bullets flew both ways. She finished her food, stood. See you at 0400, she said. Be ready, Morrison said. Always am. She walked back to her bunk. Lay down in full gear, rifle within reach. Outside, Camp Leatherneck hummed with the sound of preparation. Engines, radio chatter, the machinery of war. Elena closed her eyes, breathed deep. 1,400 meters, 45 consecutive hits, top of her class. The numbers meant something, but tomorrow they'd mean everything. She touched the perfect round in her pocket, the one Barnes had given her. A reminder that perfection existed, that it was possible, even in war, especially in war. She fell asleep with that thought and dreamed of crosshairs. The alarm shattered the darkness at 0330. Elena was already awake, sitting on the edge of her bunk with her rifle across her knees. Around her, Marines stirred, groggy curses, the rustle of gear, boots hitting plywood floors. She'd spent the night in that liminal space between sleep and alertness, mind running through scenarios. IED positions, ambush points, wind calculations, the mental preparation that separated snipers from everyone else. Morrison appeared, already in full kit. Ready? Always. They moved through pre-dawn darkness toward the staging area. The convoy sat in formation, 4 MRAPs idling, their armored hulls looking prehistoric in the harsh floodlights. Marines loaded equipment, checked weapons, performed final rituals before rolling into hostile territory. Sergeant Park stood beside Vehicle 3, reviewing a tablet. He looked up as Elena and Morrison approached. Cruz, Morrison, you're riding in back with me. We'll establish overwatch at checkpoint Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. He pulled up a map on the tablet. Each position has elevated terrain within 400 meters of the road. We set up, provide coverage while the convoy passes, then leapfrog to the next position. Rules of engagement? Elena asked. Positive ID required. But if you see a weapon, you're cleared hot. Taliban don't wear uniforms. Look for military-age males with rifles, radios, or binoculars. Trust your instincts. Morrison adjusted his spotting scope. What's the threat assessment? Hi, Route Crimson's been hit 3 times this month. IEDs mostly, but small arms contact is likely. Park's voice was matter of fact. Death was just another variable. Questions? No, Sergeant. Good. Mount up. They climbed into the MRAP's rear compartment. The interior smelled like diesel, sweat, and the metallic tang of weapons oil. 2 other Marines sat across from them, a machine gunner and a radio operator. The gunner nodded at Elena. You're Ghost, right? The one from Alvarado? That's me? Heard you dropped 40 insurgents from a mile out. It wasn't a mile, and it was 43. He whistled low. Damn! Well, glad you're covering us. The convoy commander's voice crackled over the radio. All vehicles, comm check. A cascade of responses. Call signs. Confirmations. This is actual. We're rolling in 5. Stay alert. Stay tight. Let's bring everyone home. The MRAP lurched forward. Elena felt the familiar weight of deployment settle into her bones, the knowledge that the next hours would test everything. The convoy ground through the main gate as dawn broke gray and cold. Afghanistan spread before them, beautiful and lethal, mountains rising like teeth against the horizon. Elena checked her rifle one more time, magazine seated, optic clear, everything ready. Park watched her. First combat deployment? Second, technically, Alvarado Valley. That was survival, not deployment. This is different. Sustained operations, constant threat. It wears on you. I can handle it. I know you can. I've seen your scores. He paused. But scores don't capture what it feels like to take a life. Have you thought about that? Elena met his eyes. I've already taken lives, Sergeant. 43 at Alvarado. You fired at targets threatening Marines. That's different from hunting, from choosing who lives and dies. His voice was quiet but firm. I need to know you can make that call. Clean. No hesitation. I can. You sure? Elena thought about the convoy at Alvarado, the geometry of death, the calculations that saved 480 souls. I'm sure, she said. Park nodded. Okay, then let's do this right. Checkpoint Alpha materialized after 20 minutes, a cluster of mud brick buildings beside the road, abandoned except for ghosts. The convoy slowed. Vehicle 3 peeled off, stopped at the base of a low hill. Go, Park said. They bailed out fast, Elena, Morrison, Park, moving with practiced efficiency. The hill rose steep and rocky, perfect for overwatch. Elena took point, rifle slung across her back, eyes scanning. Behind her, Morrison carried the spotting scope and rangefinder. Park brought up the rear with his carbine. At the crest, they dropped prone. Elena deployed her bipod, settled into position. Morrison set up the spotting scope beside her. Below, the convoy rolled past, slow, cautious, watching for IEDs. Range to road? Elena asked. Morrison checked. 380 meters. Wind? 2 miles per hour, left to right, negligible. Elena scanned the surrounding terrain through her scope. Buildings, fields, irrigation ditches, 1,000 places to hide. Movement, Morrison said quietly. 2 o'clock. 700 meters. Elena swung her rifle, found the target, a figure in dark clothing moving between buildings, too far to identify clearly. I see him, Park said, watching through binoculars. Can't confirm hostile. The figure stopped, raised something to his face. He's got binos, Morrison said. Watching the convoy. Park keyed his radio. Actual overwatch. We've got a possible spotter at grid November 74286. Tracking now. Copy overwatch. Maintain surveillance. The figure lowered the binoculars, pulled out a phone. He's calling it in, Elena said. Park's voice hardened. If he runs, drop him. That's an order. Elena's finger moved to the trigger. Breathing slowed. The world narrowed. The figure spoke into the phone, gestured, then turned and walked. Not running, just walking, back into the buildings. Lost visual, Morrison said. Elena held position, scanning. He's coordinating something. Maybe. Or maybe he's just a local wondering why Americans are driving through his village. Park lowered his binoculars. We don't fire on maybes. The convoy passed through the checkpoint without incident. 15 minutes later, they were back in the MRAP, moving toward checkpoint Bravo. Elena's pulse remained elevated. The adrenaline of almost firing, of holding back. Morrison noticed. First time you didn't pull the trigger? First time the target wasn't shooting at me. Gets complicated, doesn't it? Out here, you have to decide. Every time. I know. Do you? His voice was quiet. Because at Alvarado, the choice was easy. They were killing Marines. Here, it's grayer. And gray is where people hesitate, where they second guess. Elena looked at him. You think I'll hesitate when it matters? I think you're smart enough to know the difference between a threat and a civilian. But I also think the Taliban knows we won't shoot civilians. So they blend, hide behind them, make us hesitate. He paused. And hesitation gets Marines killed. Then I won't hesitate. Easy to say, harder to do. The MRAP hit a pothole, jarring everyone. The radio crackled with chatter, routine updates, position reports. Elena stared out the small window at the desert rolling past. Morrison was right. This was different, more complex, more... The explosion came without warning. 1 second, the world was normal. The next, Vehicle 1 erupted in fire and smoke, flipping onto its side as the IED detonated beneath it. Contact! IED! Vehicle 1 down! The convoy screeched to a halt. Elena's head slammed against the MRAP's interior. Her ears rang. Out! Out! Get to cover! They poured from the vehicles into chaos. Smoke everywhere, flames licking from the overturned MRAP, Marines dragging wounded. Then the small arms fire started. Rounds snapped through the air, sharp cracks that meant someone was shooting at them. Elena hit the ground behind a boulder, rifle up, scanning for targets. Eastern Ridge, someone screamed. Contact east! Elena swung her scope. Found them, insurgents firing from elevated positions, maybe 600 meters out. Park dropped beside her. How many? At least 8, maybe more. Take them. Morrison set up the spotting scope. Wind 3 miles per hour, range 620 to the nearest. Elena found her first target, a figure with an AK-47 firing down at the convoy. Breathe, adjust, fire. The insurgent dropped. Cycle. Next target, fire. Another down. The enemy fire slackened as they realized they were being picked off, but they didn't retreat. They repositioned, found better cover. RPG, Morrison shouted, 700 meters behind the wall. Elena found him, insurgent with a rocket launcher, aiming at the convoy. She fired. The round took him in the chest. The RPG clattered away, unfired. Good kill, Park said. Keep working. Elena fell into rhythm. Target. Calculate. Fire. The mathematics of violence played out with perfect precision. Around her, the Marines fought back, machine gun fire, grenades, the symphony of combat. But the convoy was pinned, wounded screamed, the overturned MRAP burned. Medevac inbound, the radio crackled. ETA 15 minutes, need the LZ secured. Park keyed his mic. Overwatch has eyes on 6 remaining hostiles. Engaging now. Elena worked methodically, each shot deliberate. Each kill necessary. 5 hostiles. 4, 3. The remaining insurgents broke. Started retreating up the ridge. They're running, Morrison said. Elena tracked them through her scope. Running targets. Harder, but not impossible. She led the first one. Adjusted for movement. Fired. Down. The second one made it 10 more meters before her bullet found him. The last one disappeared over the ridge. Clear, Elena said. Park scanned with his binoculars. I confirm. Threat neutralized. The battlefield fell quiet except for the crackle of flames and the moans of wounded Marines. Elena stood. Her hands didn't shake. Her breathing was steady. She'd just killed 7 human beings in less than 3 minutes, and she felt nothing. Just the cool satisfaction of a job done right. Morrison looked at her. You okay? I'm fine. That was... You just... He stopped. Damn, Ghost. That was surgical. Park moved toward the convoy. Come on, they need our help. They ran down to the burning vehicles. Medics worked frantically on the wounded. Marines set up a perimeter. The chaos of aftermath. Elena moved to help, but Park grabbed her arm. No, you stay on overwatch. They could counterattack. Get back up that ridge. Cover us. She ran back up, set up position, scanned. The medevac birds came in 15 minutes later, Blackhawks thundering low, rotors kicking up dust storms. The wounded were loaded, critical, urgent, walking. The convoy commander's voice on the radio. 4 KIA, 9 wounded. We're aborting mission. All vehicles return to base. Elena watched the birds lift off, carrying the broken and the dead. Her first real firefight in Afghanistan. 7 confirmed kills. 4 friendly KIA. The numbers didn't balance. They never would. Back at Camp Leatherneck, the debriefing was clinical. Maps, timelines, kill confirmations. The after-action report that turned violence into paperwork. Gunny Davis led the debrief. Corporal Cruz, your performance was exceptional. 7 confirmed kills, 0 friendly fire. You provided covering fire that allowed medevac to proceed safely. Thank you, Gunnery Sergeant. I'm not thanking you, I'm documenting. He looked at the assembled team. But off the record, you saved lives today. Good shooting. The team dispersed. Elena walked back to her bunk in silence. Inside, she sat on the edge of her cot, stared at her hands. 7 kills. She tried to feel something. Remorse, guilt, horror. But there was nothing. Just the cold knowledge that she'd done her job. Fletcher found her an hour later. Hey, heard about the contact. You okay? Everyone keeps asking me that. Because everyone wants to know. Killing people. It changes you. Does it? Elena looked at him. Or does it just reveal who you already were? Fletcher sat down. Heavy thoughts for your first firefight. Not my first. Alvarado. Right. But this was different. You were hunting them, making the choice. I made the choice to protect Marines, same as before. And you're okay with that? Elena thought about it, really thought. I'm not okay with Marines dying. I'm not okay with IEDs. I'm not okay with any of this. She paused. But I'm okay with being the one who stops it, even if that means killing. Fletcher nodded slowly. That's probably the healthiest way to think about it. Or the most damaged. Maybe both. They sat in silence. Outside, the base continued its rhythm. Life went on. How long does it take? Elena asked quietly. How long does what take? To stop counting. Fletcher's expression changed. You never stop counting. You just learn to carry the numbers. The deployment stretched into months. More patrols, more firefights, more bodies. Elena's kill count grew, official, documented, verified. By month 3, she'd surpassed 50 confirmed kills. By month 5, 78. The highest in the battalion. Word spread. Ghost 17 became legend. The quiet female sniper who never missed. Who could hit targets at impossible ranges. Who Marines wanted on Overwatch because it meant coming home alive. But with legend came pressure. Command started requesting her specifically for high-risk operations, missions where failure meant casualties, where success required the impossible. She never said no. Morrison noticed first, pulled her aside after a particularly brutal mission where she'd fired 42 rounds in 30 minutes. You're burning out, he said. I'm fine. You're not sleeping. You barely eat. You sit on that range for hours even when there's no mission. I'm maintaining my skills. You're punishing yourself. Morrison's voice was hard. For what? For being good at this? Elena turned away. I don't need a counseling session. No, you need a break. You've been on point for every major operation for 3 months. You're carrying this entire battalion on your shoulders. Someone has to. Not alone. That's the whole point of a team. He grabbed her shoulder, forced her to look at him. You saved my life twice last month. Fletcher's life 4 times. You've kept I don't know how many Marines alive, but you can't do this forever. You're human. Am I? The words came out bitter. Because I don't feel human anymore. I feel like a weapon. Point me. Fire me. Count the bodies. Morrison's expression softened. That's the deployment talking. The combat fatigue. You're not a weapon. You're a Marine, and Marines watch out for each other. I am watching out. That's all I do. Then let someone watch out for you. Elena pulled away, walked toward her bunk. But Morrison's words followed her. Month 6. A mission brief that made everyone in the room go quiet. High-value target. Taliban commander responsible for multiple IED attacks. Intelligence placed him in a compound 2 clicks from the nearest firebase. The mission: eliminate the target, extract, do it quietly. Gunny Davis looked around the room. This is a precision op. We need our best shooter. Cruz, you're on point. Elena stood. What's the range? Estimated 1,400 meters from the nearest covered position to the compound. The room shifted. That was extreme range, the edge of what was possible. I'll need Morrison spotting. You'll have him, plus a security team. But this is your shot, one chance. If you miss, the target disappears and more Marines die. No pressure. The mission launched at midnight. 4 Marines, Elena, Morrison, and 2 security, inserted by helicopter 3 clicks from the compound. They moved through darkness on foot. Silent, controlled. Ghosts in a haunted land. At the designated position, a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley, Elena set up, Morrison beside her with the spotting scope. The compound sat below, lit by a single generator. Through her scope, Elena could see figures moving. Range, she said. Morrison checked. 1420 meters. Wind? Variable. 3 to 5 miles per hour, direction shifting. Elena watched, calculated. This was the shot. The one that would define everything. An hour passed, 2, waiting for the target to appear. Then Morrison tensed. Movement. 2nd floor window, male, military age, talking on a phone. Elena found him. Dark clothing, beard, confident posture. Is that him? Morrison cross-referenced with the target photo. Positive ID? That's our guy. Elena's breathing slowed. The world reduced to mathematics and certainty. 1,420 meters. Wind shifting. Target partially obscured. She calculated, adjusted, waited for the perfect moment. The target stepped fully into view. Elena touched the perfect round in her pocket. Barnes' gift. A reminder that perfection was possible. Then she fired. The round traveled for over 2 seconds, long enough to doubt, long enough to wonder. The target dropped. Hit, Morrison whispered. Clean kill. Target down. The security team keyed their radios. Actual, this is Overwatch. Target eliminated. Extracting now. They ran, fast and low, back to the extraction point where the helicopter waited. 30 minutes later, they were airborne. The mission complete. Elena sat in the helicopter's cargo bay, hands still steady, heart rate normal. 1,420 meters. 1 shot, 1 kill. The longest confirmed kill in the battalion's history. And she felt empty. Morrison sat beside her, didn't speak, just sat. Because what was there to say? She'd done the impossible, again, and it still wasn't enough. The deployment ended 3 weeks later. 7 months in Afghanistan, 94 confirmed kills, 0 friendly casualties during her Overwatch. The numbers spoke for themselves. At the award ceremony, Elena stood at attention while a general she'd never met pinned medals to her chest. Bronze Star with Valor, Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, campaign ribbons. The general shook her hand. You're a credit to the Corps, Corporal Cruz. Your service saved countless lives. Thank you, sir. What's next for you? Good question. Elena looked out at the assembled Marines, at Morrison and Fletcher, both watching, at Gunny Davis standing at the back with something like pride on his weathered face. I don't know yet, sir. The general smiled. Take some time, figure it out. You've earned it, chap. Back stateside, Elena found herself in the same small apartment in San Diego. Same photos, same religious candles, same life waiting like she'd never left. But she'd left, and she'd returned different. Her mother knew immediately, pulled her into a hug that lasted too long. You're different, her mother said. I'm fine, Mama. No, you're changed. I see it. She touched Elena's face. What happened over there? Elena thought about the question, about 94 confirmed kills, about the weight of being the Marine everyone turned to, about Morrison's words. You're not a weapon. I learned who I am, Elena said finally. And who is that? Someone who protects people, even when it costs everything. Her mother's eyes filled. That's what I was afraid of. They sat together in the small kitchen. Luis was at school, the apartment quiet. Are you going back? Her mother asked. I don't know. Because you can stop. You've done enough, more than enough. Elena looked at her hands, steady, trained, lethal. Can I stop? I mean, can people like me just turn it off? People like you? Snipers, killers. The word tasted bitter. I'm good at it, Mama, better than anyone, and that terrifies me. Her mother took her hand. You're not a killer. You're a protector. There's a difference. Is there? Yes, because killers enjoy it. Protectors carry it. She squeezed Elena's hand. And you're carrying so much. I see it. Elena's throat tightened. I don't know how to put it down. You don't have to, not yet. But eventually, you have to give yourself permission to be more than what you do. To be a person, not just a Marine. 2 weeks later, Elena received orders. Assignment to the Special Operations Training Group as a sniper instructor. She'd teach the next generation, pass on her knowledge, turn experience into doctrine. Morrison called when he heard. Instructor? That's perfect for you? Is it? Yeah, you're too good to keep on the line. They need you teaching, building the next generation of ghosts. Elena thought about it. About trading trigger pulls for lesson plans, combat for classrooms. What if I'm not done yet? Done with what? You've got 94 confirmed kills. You're a legend. What else is there to prove? Nothing. That's the problem. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Elena, you're not trying to prove anything anymore. You're trying to outrun what you've become, and you can't. The only way through is forward. Forward to what? To whatever comes next. Maybe that's teaching. Maybe it's something else. But you can't keep fighting forever. Why not? Because eventually the fight consumes you, and you deserve better than that. She thought about his words long after the call ended. The first day at the Special Operations Training Group, Elena walked into a classroom filled with sniper candidates, all watching, all evaluating. She stood at the front, pulled up a map. I'm Corporal Cruz. You'll call me Corporal or Instructor. I've been where you want to go. Combat deployment, high-value targets, impossible shots. She paused. I'm here to make sure you survive what I survived. Questions? A hand raised. How many confirmed kills do you have? Elena looked at him. Enough to know that the number doesn't matter. What matters is bringing your Marines home, every single one. That's the job. Another hand. Is it true you made a 1,400-meter shot in combat? Yes. How? Practice, discipline, and refusing to accept impossible. She looked around the room. That's what I'm going to teach you, not just how to shoot, how to be the Marine everyone depends on when everything falls apart. The class settled, listening. Elena began the lesson, and for the first time in months, she felt something other than emptiness. Purpose. 6 months into her instructor assignment, Elena received a visitor. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes walked into her office unannounced. Older now, more gray. Heard you're teaching the next generation, he said. Trying to, sir. He sat down. How's it going? They're learning, some faster than others. Like you did? Elena almost smiled. I hope better than I did. Barnes pulled out a folder, set it on her desk. I have a proposition. Joint Special Operations Command is building an advanced sniper program, multi-service, best of the best. They want you as lead instructor. Elena opened the folder, read the details. Deployment to various theaters, training elite units, developing cutting-edge tactics, everything she'd worked for. This is incredible, sir. It's also demanding, high tempo, constant pressure. You'd be in the field as much as the classroom. He paused. Can you handle that? Elena thought about Afghanistan, about 94 confirmed kills, About Morrison's words. You can't keep fighting forever. I don't know, sir. Honestly. Barnes nodded. Good answer. Because the wrong answer is yes without thinking. This job will consume you if you let it. Like Afghanistan did? Afghanistan was combat. This is career, different kind of consumption. He leaned forward. So before you decide, I want you to answer one question. What do you want, Elena? Not what the Corps wants. Not what your record demands. What do you want? The question hung in the air. Elena looked at the folder, at the opportunity, at the path forward. Then she looked at Barnes. I want to matter, she said quietly. I want what I do to mean something beyond the kill count, beyond the legend. She paused. I want to save people, not just by shooting, by teaching them to save themselves. Barnes smiled. Then you already have your answer. Do I? Yes. Because this program? It's not about you being the best shooter. It's about making everyone else better, multiplying your impact. He stood. Think about it. You have 2 weeks to decide. After he left, Elena sat alone in her office. The folder sat open, the future waiting. She pulled out the perfect round, still carried in her pocket after all these months, rolled it between her fingers, a reminder that perfection existed. But perfection wasn't the goal anymore. Impact was. She put the round back, made her decision. Book it. 2 years later, Elena stood on a stage at Marine Corps Base Quantico. Behind her, a class of 40 snipers, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, graduated from the advanced program. The program she'd built. In the audience, familiar faces. Morrison, now a gunnery sergeant, grinning. Fletcher, sporting staff sergeant chevrons. Gunny Davis, retired but present. Her mother, Louise, beside her. And in the front row, the newest class of candidates. Watching, learning. Elena addressed the graduating class. 2 years ago, I stood where you're standing, wondering if I was good enough, if I deserved to be here, if the legend matched reality. She paused. I'm here to tell you, the legend doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. What matters is the Marine beside you, the soldier you're covering, the sailor who depends on your eyes downrange. She looked at each face. You are snipers now. Not because you can shoot far, but because you can see what others miss. Calculate what others can't, and act when others hesitate. Her voice strengthened. The world will underestimate you, tell you it's impossible, that you don't belong, prove them wrong, not with words, with precision, with results, with lives saved. The audience stood, applauded. Elena stepped down from the stage, her part finished. Morrison caught her outside. Hell of a speech, Ghost. Think they heard it? Every word, he grinned. You know half of them are here because of you, because you showed them what's possible? Elena looked back at the building, at the candidates filing out. Then I did my job. You did more than that. You changed the whole program, made it better. We made it better. All of us. Morrison nodded. True. But you started it. Fletcher joined them. So what's next for the legendary Ghost 17? Elena pulled out the perfect round one last time, looked at it. Then she handed it to a young female candidate walking past, nervous, uncertain, carrying too much weight on her shoulders. Here, Elena said. Someone gave this to me once, told me it was a reminder that perfection exists. I'm passing it to you. The candidate took it, eyes wide. Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me. Just use it. Remember what's possible and make it real. The candidate walked away, clutching the round like a talisman. Fletcher watched her go. That was your perfect round, from Barnes. I know. Why give it away? Elena smiled. Because I don't need reminders anymore. I know what I'm capable of, what we're all capable of. She looked at Morrison and Fletcher. And now it's someone else's turn to discover it. They stood together in the afternoon sun, 3 snipers who'd walked through fire and emerged as something more than their kill counts. You know what I realized? Elena said. At Alvarado, I was fighting to prove I deserved to be there. In Afghanistan, I was fighting to save lives. But now? She paused. Now I'm fighting to make sure the next generation doesn't have to fight as hard as I did. To prove themselves. To be heard. That's the real mission, Morrison said quietly. Yeah, Elena agreed. It is. Her mother approached with Luis, pulled Elena into a fierce hug. I'm so proud of you, her mother whispered. I know, Mama. Not for the medals, not for the record, for finding your way back. Elena held her mother tight. I'm still finding it, every day. That's okay, as long as you keep trying. They walked toward the parking lot together, family and brothers in arms, the people who mattered more than any accolade. Elena took one last look at the training facility, at the place where legends were forged from discipline and determination. She'd entered the military invisible, dead weight, range only, the Marine nobody believed in. She'd left it as Ghost 17, a name that meant precision, protection, possibility. But more importantly, she'd learned the truth that sustained her through everything. Strength doesn't demand attention. It doesn't require recognition or validation. Real strength proves itself when the world has no other choice but to see it, and then uses that visibility to lift others into the light. Elena Cruz had rewritten the battlefield, changed the program, saved countless lives, and in doing so, she'd proven something more important than any record. That one person, underestimated, ignored, dismissed, can change everything, if they refuse to accept impossible as an answer. True strength isn't measured by the battles you win alone. It's measured by how many others you empower to fight beside you.